Hello and welcome to the IGN UK podcast. I am Alex, and on this week's podcast I'm joined by Daniel Krupa.
Hello.
Chris Tilley.
Bonjour.
And we have a very special guest. We have Seb.
Hi, how you doing?
Now Seb, explain to our listeners who you are and why you're here.
Oh yeah, so my name's Seb, and I won a competition the other week to come down to your offices and stream the Elder Scrolls Online all day, every day, for 5 days.
Wow.
It was pretty awesome. This is my final day doing it.
So to add a little bit of colour to that, you've been locked in a room.
I have been locked in a room.
On your own?
On my own, streaming on Twitch the Elder Scrolls Online for 5 days.
Are you having a great time, or are you just
losing your mind slowly?
It's 50-50 really.
Okay, that's good to know.
I live in Bristol normally, so it's about a 6-hour commute every day getting down here and
You've
back.
been doing that every day?
I've been getting up at 4 in the morning every day to come down here.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty intense. I love it though. It's been so
like Will.
fantastic.
Now that's dedication.
Yeah, I had to use the excuse of donuts just to be able to meet you guys today. Otherwise, this would have been locked in
I
the room.
didn't realise you were getting up at 4 a.m. and then coming all the way from
Well, I can
Bristol
sleep on
every
the
day.
coach, but the thing about coaches is they're not very comfy.
Yeah.
And I have to tactically choose which jacket I wear. It's got to be soft so I can put it up against the window and use it as a pillow.
Wow, who'd have thought that there was so much complexity to
Yeah.
coach travel?
I think honestly, it's our commute. You've got a lot of time to be tactical.
Yeah, that's true.
And how is Elder Scrolls?
It's really good. Yeah, I'm loving it. It's I mean, I'm not very good at it. I've played a few MMOs before, mainly DC Universe, but I haven't been doing very well at the Elder Scrolls, but it's been really good fun to play. I've had some really useful people on Twitch just telling me what to do. Well, a particular highlight was when I started doing PvP and ended up for about 2 hours in just a loop of going on my horse for 10 minutes to fight, dying immediately, and doing it again.
Right.
So that was really good until somebody told me what I was supposed to do.
Which is?
Group up, find high-level players, and stay behind them.
Right, hide.
Pretty much. Hide, basically.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's my kind of general
Do you,
motto
think
in life,
do you
actually.
think you'll keep on playing it after this week?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I've got a lot of games that I need to be catching up on at the moment.
And you are taking away the Ninja
I am
PC that
taking,
you're
yeah,
playing.
You can
you
take away.
anyone listening is absolutely allowed to hate me completely.
Have you
for
got to
getting
carry
this-
that back on the bus?
I do, yeah. Well, I'm going to try. I was going to bring an IKEA bag with me to try and carry it, but I forgot. So I'm just going to pick it up on the tube and just carry it through.
What about the
can we not-
monitor?
Can we
Am
not
I
get,
taking the monitor back as well?
I believe so.
Fair enough.
can we not get that delivered?
Yeah.
No, come
that,
on.
that might have
Yes.
to happen.
That's pretty crazy.
You can't do that. You'll get assaulted.
I'll get mugged
There's
3 times.
There's Primark just down the road. You can get really cheap suitcases. So,
Sweet.
well, that's insane. Anyway, this week's podcast, we're going to talk about the news. And first up, there was, well, it kind of talked about
We
already,
kind
but
of
there's a
known that
Borderlands
something like this was going to happen,
pre-sequel. Why is it called a pre-sequel and not a prequel?
or an in-betweequel.
Is that what
I prefer the term in-between.
Oh my
if
God,
we're going to use
that
any
is
term,
gonna come out, isn't it?
because it happens between the events of the original and the sequel. So
Right.
it is a interstitial equal.
Okay.
So it is not even made. It's not made by Gearbox. It's made by 2K Australia, I believe.
Right.
And with Gearbox, like overseeing it or being affiliated with it, it is about Handsome Jack. You know Handsome Jack in
Yes.
Borderlands 2? It's about his backstory and his descent into villainy.
Right.
And introduces new mechanics like anti-gravity stuff, oxygen tanks, because a lot of it's set on a moon base.
Okay. What formats is it on? Is it next gen? Because
No.
obviously there was Randy Pitchford came out and tweeted that Gearbox is working on next gen, but obviously this is not Gearbox.
So I reckon they're probably
and-
pretty far along with this already, and it's because it's coming out this year, so it's available for PC, PS3, and Xbox 360 only.
Right.
So current gen SKU.
So
You're a big Borderlands fan. Are you even bothered?
well, I didn't finish 2 because I basically ran out of time. Like, it's one of those games that it's a fantastic game, lots to it, but I think it came out in, was it the summer? Or the end of the summer? And anyway, loads of games came out shortly after. I started playing one of those and I never really went back. And it's one of those games that it's so big that I actually have no idea where I am in the game and it'll take me forever to actually figure out what to do next. So, but yeah, I like the idea of it. Gearbox are really good at supporting their titles with DLC as well. Like Borderlands 2 has had so much good DLC, which I think is a reason to get good value. And I think it's smart putting it on old-gen consoles as well. Old-gen, sorry.
Install base. There's 80 million Xbox 360s out there, only 5 or 3 or 4 Xbox Ones out there. So
Well, actually, like, not
only 3.
Yeah,
There's only 3 out there.
and we've got 2 of them in
Yeah.
the office.
So kind of tepid news
Yeah.
to start off with.
Are you excited by Borderlands, Seb?
I'm not sure actually. I got Borderlands 2 in February last year, I think it was.
Yeah.
I had Borderlands 1 and played it a bit, but as you said, I got into it, forgot where I was.
Yeah.
I'm notorious for just going through story missions with high-level co-op guys, losing them, and then not being able to defeat a single enemy.
Right.
And that's a bit rubbish, so I ended up stopping. I got Borderlands 2, that happened. I stopped playing it for about 4 months, and then I picked it up again when I went to university.
Yeah.
And started a new game with the Necromancer. I ended up completing it. And I had a really, really good time.
Yeah.
And I put tons of time into it. I got DLC, and it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And this pre-sequel looks cool. I love that you can play as Claptrap. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But I'm not sure if I want to go back and restart all of that progress. Because I saw the preview video you guys have of it on YouTube, and it looks a lot like Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like pretty much the same mechanics as Borderlands 2 with a couple of new features. I'm not sure if that's worth kind of wiping all of my progress of Borderlands 2 and starting it afresh again, especially when it's current gen only.
I think also, like you mentioned, Claptrap. Like the idea of playing as Claptrap sounds good, but it's the reality that gets same as the.
I mean, he's
thought
a
Big
comedy
Daddies.
relief character, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure I'd ever really want to play as him. I'd rather just have him, knock around and be funny.
Yeah, it sounds like
actually
fan
be him.
service, really. Like,
But the Big Daddies in Bioshock 2, I thought it's going to be great to play as Big Daddy, and actually, I didn't think it was all that. Personally.
Yeah.
Is that funny, Chris? Why?
You wanted to play as Big Daddy?
Yes, the 80s wrestler. Yes. That so many of our listeners will know what you're talking about.
Well, funny you should say that, but it's a nice segue.
Well, okay, speaking of kind of wrestling, Big Daddy was...
Fighters from the 70s?
Jesus. Anyway, Bruce Lee, the well-known kung fu...
Fighter from the 70s.
Fighter from the 70s. Dead Fighter from the 70s. Is a pre-order bonus if you if you pre-order UFC. Which many people have thought, well, that's kind of a bit of an odd mix, because the whole point of Bruce Lee is he was a bit of a kind of Zen fighter, and UFC is just cheap blood sport, in my opinion.
so is that odds with the ethic?
In my opinion, a bit. But there is a quote from Bruce Lee's daughter. Anybody know what Bruce Lee's daughter's called?
No idea.
Bruce?
Yes, Bruce. Sharon.
We got off,
Sharon.
And that's true.
Sharon Lee.
I don't know why that's funny, but it's...
We got offered an interview with her, actually.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did he?
Did he?
Sorry. Anyway, she says, I am so excited about this opportunity to bring my father back to video games.
Back to
Stop
life.
it! She's being serious here. I'm thrilled that fans can now interact with him in a new way, i.e. punch his face in. The EA Sports UFC development team has been incredible to work with, and they've done a great job of capturing the look and feel of my father. Do you think that they mocapped him?
What do you mean?
I don't know.
I think they didn't.
How would they have done his face?
What do you mean how they've done this
hopefully
face?
Well,
You can
they
show
know
pictures of
they
it.
know what he looks like.
He's been
Yeah,
on
I know.
films.
He's not a secret.
But everybody in UFC would have been mocapped,
Yeah.
presumably.
There's a lot
Apart
of
from
footage
him.
of him.
There's probably some lookalikes around there somewhere.
Now, the one thing I will say, and Chris, you've probably not seen this, look what that boy is packing in his shorts.
Oh, my word.
Now, that's little Bruce, or not so little Bruce.
Oh, wow,
It's like-
okay.
yeah.
There's another.
That's his finisher.
That's his Ultimate Warrior.
Is it?
Oh, sorry.
Too soon. Too
God rest
soon.
his soul. She's saying that, but while she's saying it, she's carrying a big bag of money away. isn't she?
Exactly, yes. Yeah. Just like setting fire to $50
it's been such a wonderful experience exhuming the corpse of my father digitally.
Well,
Ooh.
she didn't say that, but what she did say is I think people will love getting a chance to fulfill a fight fantasy by playing Bruce Lee in the new UFC game.
This reminds me, actually, the new DLC they've been doing for Call of Duty.
Yeah.
You know, where they've been, like, in the first DLC they did, they brought in Mike Myers from
Yep.
Halloween.
Yeah.
And now they're doing the Predator.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what's the point? Why does that tie into Call of Duty? It's like
I
they're
think
bringing
Predator's
in-
quite cool.
I think Predator's quite a cool fit for Call of Duty. Mike Myers is a bit weird. It just seems like they're bringing in pop culture icons for
You're
the
thinking
sake
of
of
Mike
bringing
Myers
in-
and Wayne's World,
I
aren't
think you mean, well, no, because it's Michael Myers. Mike Myers is definitely the guy from Wayne's World,
Shrek.
which would be a really good Call of Duty character.
That is at odds with Call of Duty.
Sorry, I always used to play Mike Myers on Modern Warfare 2. I would never call it Michael Myers. I just call it Mike Myers.
Now, that would be funny. Yeah.
Austin Powers in Call of Duty.
That's the third
play
one.
that.
That's the
Well,
Behave.
yeah, who would you like to see in the next Call of Duty, or which character would you like to see in the
Terminator.
next?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Bruce Lee.
to see him do it.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Cash in. I'll have some more cash.
It's like we've got the assets, just put it in everything.
Yeah.
Ultimate Warrior.
Minecraft.
Oh my
It's too soon.
goodness.
It's too soon.
Anyway, let's move on to the next piece of news, shall we?
Yeah.
Speaking of people that are almost dead. Oh. Go on.
Peter Mayhew. I haven't got
Yes.
the story.
Well, you know the story.
Oh, okay. So Peter Mayhew's been cast. I didn't know it was me.
Yes, it's you.
Okay, thanks for telling me. Thanks for letting me know. I guess Peter Mayhew is going to be in the new Star Wars playing Chewbacca.
Yay.
But, so you saw him, was it last year at the
I went
Star
to
Wars conference?
Star Wars convention.
Convention.
Conference makes it sound like it should be like a slough. Everyone's just doing group seminars. And he was not. He was very friendly and good value, but he's not he's not in good health.
Right. He's not going to be swinging from trees or anything like that.
No, he's like he needs to use a wheelchair or crutches, and his
Imagine if
condition's really
Chewbacca
taking its toll on him.
Imagine if Chewbacca was in a wheelchair.
I imagine he's going to do like half a day, isn't he? On
There was
set or
some kind of
something?
crowdsourcing kind of Kickstarter thing to help him get an operation last year, I remember. I don't know if it was a documentary they're making about him or he was in real kind of physical trouble. So I don't expect to see him running around as Chewbacca, I guess. But it's nice. It's a nice idea, though, to have him there, I think.
Or
It's
is
a nice
it,
sentiment.
again, my cynical hat, is it just a cheap PR stunt?
to get fans on board.
It's a bit of both, I think, probably. Like, as Dan and I were saying yesterday, and just mentioned, like, I can't imagine him working a lot on the movie.
No.
But I feel like I would know if it's him inside that.
How?
Because the mannerisms, like, he is Chewbacca. He's so much a part of that character.
But he hasn't done it for 30 years.
I'll know if it's him.
It seems
Right.
a little harsh, though. If he's like really old and needs wheelchairs and he's in ill health, to make him get up and like
Put
a
the suit
big,
on that's
heavy
really
Chewbacca suit
not very well
and
ventilated.
pretend to be Chewbacca, that's
Be a
really
terrible
harsh.
decision.
Oh no, Star Wars is going to kill him.
I understand the
Well,
sentiment
maybe.
of it,
Why
but-
can't he just
And
kill
there's the end
Anthony
of him.
Daniels?
Aww.
Is he? I
He's
bet
up
he's
next.
forcing his way on set.
He's up next.
He's not. I just don't think that. No, they can't bring him back.
Why not?
I don't know.
He won't have aged. He's a robot.
I think any
Or an
Star
android.
Wars fans though are going to be happy to hear that. I think that's a nice sentiment.
Everyone loves Chewie.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
and he loves
Yeah.
it. Like he's over the moon, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he loves.
More conventions.
Yeah, keep milking it. Oh, bless him. I hope he gets his operation, bless.
Anyone
Maybe
else?
that's why he's doing it. He's getting the money for his operation.
I'm sure he will go towards that. And anyone else you'd like to see back in Star Wars?
Mark Hamill
I think he's
doing,
got.
doing his Joker voice.
Carrie.
I think we're going to get I think we get Mark and Harrison and Carrie,
I
but
thought that was confirmed.
yeah.
Oh, it is confirmed.
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
Anyone else?
Lando.
Lando.
Boba.
I saw Lando on a chat show last week talking about he wants to be in it and he's not had a phone call yet.
I'm
But
sure they
he's-
all want to be in it. Like really,
I
like
feel
people in
really
his career's
sad.
gone nowhere.
He's back in the public eye. He's on Dancing with the Stars in America at the moment. So he's
Is he?
like, yeah, he's like back in the public eye now. So, and he's still really cool.
Isn't he really old?
Yeah, but he's still, well, in the same way that the others are old.
Yeah, but the fact that he's doing Dance with the Stars means that he's
But
still
not-
got
it's
it.
Peter Mayhew's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
doing Dancing
Yeah.
with the Stars.
I know that. Anyway, I was going to say something. I won't. Anyway, is
Probably
that it for
best.
Star Wars news?
Yes.
Oh, you said there's a piece of Star Wars news every day. What was this morning's piece of Star Wars news?
Well-
Oh, it might be filmed in Abu Dhabi, but it might not. So that's news.
And
right
yesterday
there.
there's an actress who might be in it but might not.
Okay. We should do a show about that. Anyway, this week's talking point is The Last of Us. It's been confirmed that it's come to PlayStation 4. There was a very brief trailer. Actually, it was quite a long trailer, but it was all quotes saying how good it is, and then a
Two
very
IGN quotes though.
a very brief piece of footage. Now, certainly Daniel and I, we've played it all the way through to completion.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, you've not played it, and Seb, I don't think you've played
I
it either.
haven't, no.
But for me, it's like when they showed the footage, I was like, it doesn't really look that much better because The Last of Us is a great-looking game in the first place. So, is it actually worth replaying? Would you go back and replay it? Because the story is the story. Not a lot changes, right?
No, so it's going to be the same game, but it's like that thing where when a film comes out and you've not seen it for a while and they do a restoration or
Yeah.
it's a new print or it's on a Blu-ray and it kind of progresses it that much more into the future and the quality of the experience.
Yeah.
So I remember when I first got my first DVD player
Yeah.
and I got loads of films. I went and revisited loads of films I've only ever saw as a kid on VHS.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to see Jaws on DVD for the first time, stuff like that. I just feel like this is quite a recent thing, and the technological jump isn't that significant.
Yeah.
It's going remastered in 1080p. So
Because I think the jump from VHS to DVD was noticeable.
Yeah.
The jump from DVD to Blu-ray is noticeable on more recent films. But I just watched Guns and Navarone after hearing Kojima talking about it. and obviously it's a 60s movie. I assume it's 60s.
Yeah.
But obviously it looks like a 60s movie. And you don't think, oh, that looks better on Blu-ray, because I may as well just watch it probably on VHS.
Stuart in the galleries violently shaking his head.
What does he know
Because
about films?
We can take a
and
transfer
things
from
like
the
that?
original negative, can't you, Stu? Yeah, and he's pointing a makeshift gun at your head.
Good. He doesn't have a microphone.
How common is it to revisit a game? Because obviously a film is a 2-hour, 90-minute
Yeah.
experience, whereas
Yeah.
a game can be 2-3 days of spacing your time out.
Well, I think certainly when it's shifting from one console generation to the next console generation, if you've invested, as Naughty Dog has, probably 3-4 years of development time in the original Last of Us, you want to get as much of it out that as possible. So I have no idea how complex it is to make it, upscale it. But again, the last game looks so good. I think it's probably, if you've not played it before, worth playing. Definitely worth checking.
There's
If you've played it
interesting
already,
things. There's
I'm not sure.
There's director's commentary on it, which is quite cool, I think, for all the cut sequences to hear Neil Druckmann talk about plot points, give it a little bit more extra detail, flesh out kind of the backstory, how it was made, all that sort of stuff that usually games creators are quite cagey about when the game first comes out. And that stuff's quite interesting.
It is interesting, but I've never, ever, ever watched a director's
Have you
commentary.
not?
No, never.
I've watched loads. I used to do that a lot at university. Like all DVD collection I took to university, I rewatched them with commentary on.
I remember when DVDs first came out, I watched extras because it was like, well, I'll get my money's worth.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever watched an extra.
I've never watched
Anytime
any
soon.
commentaries. I remember Valve always used to do director's commentaries. There used to be like a director's commentary mode on their games where they had question marks around everywhere. And I tried it once or twice, but I was never quite interested enough in it to go around the entirety of the game looking at the commentary.
But the thing is with the commentary, it's kind of like a weird, I don't know, antecedent to a Let's Play.
Yeah.
Of a film, like, you know, you're finding out more, you're watching it with someone. I know of people, for instance, I know a big, really popular commentary is the commentary that exists on League of Gentlemen DVDs. Like, people almost see it as kind of an appendix to the actual TV show itself, because it's the 4 guys who wrote the TV show, and they're just as funny in the commentary, like improvising, giving information, but almost sketches emerge in the commentary of them being in character or being funny. So it's almost like another version of the show.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what might make you want to watch a commentary is Arnold Schwarzenegger's Total Recall commentary.
Right.
There's a compilation of his best bits on YouTube,
Yeah.
and it'll make you want to hit the whole thing.
Okay.
There are some good ones. I'd recommend the John Carpenter, Kurt Russell commentaries of their movies.
Yeah.
The Big Trouble in Little China and The Thing.
Yeah.
And they're clearly having a few beers while they're doing it.
Right.
Very entertaining.
Okay.
There are a few of people like there's a couple of people who just hate the movie, and I think there's one guy who spends the entire commentary apologising. I can't for the life of me remember what it is, but he spends like it's. I remember reading an article of like the 5 worst DVD commentaries, and number 1 was a guy who was so ashamed of his movie he spent the entire commentary apologising.
Wasn't there like a Danny Dyer football one that I've heard?
Yeah,
clips
no,
of?
it was Outlaw. The movie
Right.
was Outlaw,
Okay.
and I've since met someone who was in the same office as Danny Dyer was doing that, and there were naughty things going on during the commentary, and you can kind of hear it. Really,
Yeah. But
He's getting
that
more and
sounds
more
quite
excited.
funny. But yeah,
He
the only
compares himself to Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese, him and Nick Love.
of course a natural comparison.
But bringing it back round, we had Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg come in and do commentary over the top of the intro
did
to
indeed.
Last of Us.
Yeah.
Should we get them back in for the PS4?
See if they can tell the
we
difference.
can shoot them with the new camera, so that's in higher res.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's just a thought, put it out there.
The only it's not really a DVD extra, but this week thing that's doing the rounds is the Jean-Claude Van Damme Predator thing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that?
I have.
He looks like he's dressed as a giant prawn, just running around the forest. That I would watch again.
It was
and again
quite exciting
and
to
again.
see that, though, because I've always known that Jean-Claude Van Damme was originally in the movie.
Right.
And then they changed the actor. So it's fun to actually see that.
Yeah.
And it's fun that he got annoyed. He
I know.
thought he was going to be the big star.
Yeah, but you would be like running around like that. It's just crazy.
Because that was before he did really anything.
Yeah.
yeah, he's
Free
just off
Bloodsport.
the, yeah, he's just
Right.
off the plane.
Anyway, listeners, will you be playing The Last of Us on PlayStation 4? Let us know if you've played it already. The email address is IGN_UKfeedback@IGN.com or Facebook, Twitter /IGNUK. Now on to this week's feedback. And Daniel, I think you have the first piece.
So yeah, I've got it from Brandon.
So we've got a lot of
Hey,
feedback
Brandon.
about
so
the
the
discussion
scariest
point.
game from
Yes.
last week. He said, "I won't call it the scariest game, but possibly the freakiest moment in recent gaming memory would be in Spec Ops: The Line. There's a section in the game where you're in a mall and you enter this dimly lit storage room with mannequins. The main character is getting angry and anxious at this point. You take cover behind a counter and the light starts to flicker like a strobe light, and an enemy starts to appear in random spots every time the light turns back on. You shoot him just a couple of times and he explodes into a bunch of mannequin parts before reappearing elsewhere, getting closer to you. I remember getting to that point, getting freaked out and thinking to myself, what the hell was that? It's not that kind of game.
Yeah.
I even thought there might be something wrong with my console because how effectively it was done. And he also gave an honourable mention to Fear, which we talked about last week as well. But yeah, so it's
Mannequins.
kind of a surreal moment in Spec Ops that you kind of it takes
And
you
it's
by.
not that sort of game, is it?
No, it takes you unaware.
Yeah. Also, mannequins, a bit like clowns, they're a bit scary.
Yeah, mannequins are scary.
Apart from Kim Cattrall.
Again, another reference that our audience will probably have no idea what you're
It's
talking
eat
about.
that
I know
up,
what you're
won't
talking
they?
about.
First woman I ever fancied, mannequin.
She was hot.
Mm.
What's the name of the guy in it?
Andrew McCarthy.
Yeah. He was a big 80s film star.
He was, yeah.
Like, he
Like
was-
Judge Reinhold.
Yes.
Yeah, now we're talking.
No, you shouldn't. Never judge Reinhold. What?
Dear.
No.
Right, I've got an email from Dylan Wynn who says Eternal Darkness was a genuinely scary experience because it messed with you in unexpected ways and paid homage to some of to the godfathers of horror, H.P. Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe.
Mm-hmm.
It was only slightly detached 3D person perspective that saved my sanity. Anyway, he said he was pleasantly surprised at the mention of Tony by Stu. I have no idea what he's talking about here. Some years ago, yeah, exactly. Stu's mate Tony. He is scary. Some years ago, he works at an independent film and was invited to an indie screening in Crouch End, and Tony was screened there. Anyway, it was genuinely unnerving. I've never seen anything like it. I feel the same about Stuart, actually. I really loved it, and I remember wishing it well. Obviously, it went a bit further afield for Stu to see it, or maybe he was at the same screening. Is he there? He's not in the gallery anymore.
Is that the film that was shot for the price of a sandwich? No.
Not,
Different film.
Was that a meal deal, or was that like a full price like sandwich? Anyway, thanks, Dylan.
All right, I've got some feedback from Alexander Blundell. He says, one multiplayer experience that has not been beaten yet, based on heart-pumping moments and pure jump scares, is a mod for Half-Life 2, called Hidden Source. In Hidden Source, it's several players versus the Hidden, where the Hidden is completely invisible when still, and when moving, it leaves like a gas leak or sun haze effect. He one-hit kills you from behind with his pick sticker, has a few pipe bombs, and can jump and climb on walls. This multiplayer mod sees you as a SWAT team with weapons and trip mines, having to hunt the Hidden and kill him. Whoever kills him becomes the Hidden. Now,
Sounds a bit like Predator.
it's really good, actually. I've never played it personally, but I've watched a lot of... It's really popular on YouTube, people
Right.
playing it. I generally, when I'm watching it on YouTube, I generally find it's very funny.
Yeah.
Because you get people like, I don't know, name drop C-Nanos or something,
Yeah.
who are just hilarious. Just,
Yeah, we've
pranking
actually got a
people,
feature
essentially.
going live on site next week about kind of the phenomenon of YouTube, people playing horror games, and how there's become a situation where these games are too scary for people to play directly, but they kind of enjoy watching other people play them.
Yeah.
So at once removed.
Right.
Um,
So it takes away
Yeah.
just that. The thing you were saying about, what was it, Eternal Darkness?
Yeah.
Because it was third person, he felt slightly more detached from
Yeah.
it. So
I've dabbled in streaming horror games on YouTube myself. You do get that a little bit, because I love to watch like horror gamers on YouTube playing their games, because you kind of jump at it, but it's not as bad because you're not playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I find indie horror games tend to be the scariest for me. Like, one of my favourite ever games is the original Dead Space.
Yeah.
It scared the crap out of me when I first played it, but now I've played all three and I love them, and it doesn't scare me at all. But most indie horror games can make me just quit, as it's so scary. Games like Slender and SCP Containment Breach
Yeah.
are really scary, and it's hard to play those by yourself. But when you're streaming it to YouTube, you kind of have the courage to do it because you know people are watching.
Yeah.
Is a horror game more scary than a horror film?
Yes,
Yeah, we
I'd say.
talked about this last week. We were saying that I think the level of immersion that you can cultivate in a game, especially with going forward with something like an Oculus Rift.
yeah.
The kind of situation that you could put someone in, and this is what the feature about is going live next week, is you get to a point where you can make a game that's so scary that no one wants to play it.
Yeah.
So actually it's a very dangerous thing to make, because you just actually bankrupt yourself, because no one wants that experience, really.
Well, that's it. Like, I must admit, an Oculus Rift horror game, I don't want to play
too
that.
much.
I don't
If
want
it's
to
like
play
the
that.
Slender experience with like headphones on, full Oculus Rift would it'd be overwhelming.
I can't play Slender just
On the
without
screen. I
headphones
played it
on.
in the office in the middle of the day, and it scared me.
Yeah.
Like,
Is Silent
really
Hill no longer considered the scariest game?
I think
Bloody scary.
we name
It was
checked
scary
last week.
for
Yeah.
its- yeah.
Mm.
But like really good at setting atmosphere.
Yeah.
And like tension running away. And Evil Within, which is the new game from Shinji Mikami, the Resident Evil guy. They did a new trailer for that came out, and that looks
There are
pretty
aspects of-
pretty scary.
Yeah.
But also like got gore porn as well. So I don't
Gore
know.
porn.
Yeah, you like that stuff, don't you?
Torture porn. I don't. I hate it.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible.
Thanks for giving me
Just
the longest email in history to read out on a day when I'm feeling somewhat delicate. I'm going to split this into two.
Okay, you need a bit of a break in the middle. Okay.
Dear podcast people, my name is Howard and I'm from Florida, but not the cool part with the beaches and spring break and resorts and cruises and theme parks. I'm from Tallahassee. We have government and university.
Oh.
State capital,
sorry.
Florida.
And Zombieland. Woody Harrelson's character. He says, in relation to your conversation regarding scary movies, I would like to say Night of the Living Dead, which is one of my favourite horror films of all time, but not the one that he's talking about. Specifically the 1990 remake with Tony Todd. I always laugh when I hear Tony Todd's name. He's a ridiculous man. Candyman.
Oh, okay.
I saw the first 15 minutes of that movie when I was about 11 at a sleepover at his place.
At Tony Todd's place.
That's what it sounds like. I can't imagine. Is it at Tony Todd's place?
That's how it's worded.
Wow.
Maybe you know.
I don't
Tony
think
Todd.
it is.
I'm sure you.
We changed the channel and wound up watching a VHS recording of several episodes of the Earthworm Jim cartoon before falling
I
asleep.
hope it's not Tony Todd, because that's the weirdest story in the world. Watching it with a guy in it and then watching Earthworm Jim before falling asleep.
Oh, Howard, did you see Tony Todd's Earthworm Jim? However, he had some kind of sleep apnea.
What?
And his moaning, loud,
Sleeping
open-mouthed breathing freaked me the F out. I had to leave early. I've since gotten over my fear of zombies and have embraced zombie culture, but that first experience with them has always left its impression on me. This is such a weird story.
I've embraced zombie culture and we're around eating people.
Howard, were you at Tony Todd's house?
That is the question we need answering.
I saw the first 15 minutes of that movie when I was about 11 at a sleepover at his place. I think you're at Tony Todd's house. Can you ask, if you're friends with him, can you ask him to be on the podcast?
Okay.
Okay, let's second half of the email. The Dead Space series has probably been among my favourite series in recent years. There was only one moment that ever forced me to get so freaked out I had to quit for several days, and I even had a couple of nightmares. In Dead Space 2, you have to control a machine that slowly lowers a needle into your eye.
You do
Oh,
indeed.
I remember that.
None of us like
Oh,
that.
man.
Failing this sequence will have a gory ending of the needle going through the head of Isaac, which was fine, but what effed me up, even I'm having to cut
Well
out some of
done.
the swearing.
Self-censoring.
But what effed me up even more was when I did it correctly and the needle injected stuff and then came out and there was a droplet of blood oozing out of Isaac's pupil. I'm having to type this with my eyes closed just due to the idea causing a phantom pain.
He's good. He's good at touch typing, isn't he? He's done it with his eyes closed.
So yeah, do you remember that scene?
Yes.
Yes.
I haven't played any of the Dead Space.
I love Dead Space. I was listening to a podcast last week, and I was so annoyed he didn't name drop Dead Space because it freaked. I remember when it came out, I was far too young to play it, so I ended up watching somebody playing it on YouTube, and my parents weren't looking. Just like looking around, making sure they're not there. And it
They're
scared me
not in
on
the corner of the
YouTube.
room.
Then about 3 years later, I finally managed to sneakily download it on Games on Demand on Xbox, and it's amazing. It's
First one is great.
so good.
The first one is brilliant.
They got a lot
It
more
reminds
kind
me
of
a lot
action
of like
focused,
Event
though, don't
Horizon.
Yeah, yeah.
What, sorry?
They got a lot more action focused.
They did, and I think that's to do with commercial pressures and it moving away from what the series
didn't
was
really
originally
pay
about.
off, to
So
be
yeah,
honest.
Event Horizon, vastly underrated film.
yeah,
I love that
it,
movie. Yeah.
it does very well on Netflix apparently because it's always amongst the most watched films of the month. Anyway,
I just want to add something to this. I know the director Eli Roth, and he introduced me to a girl called Jennifer Lim who's in Hostel, and she hadn't seen the film yet, so I took her to a screening of it, and she dies really unpleasantly. And at the end of the film, her eye gets kind of, I can't remember what happens to it, but it gets squished and pus comes out of it as she dies, and he called it the eyegasm. And I took her to the screening. It's probably the most horrible moment in the movie. And there was a bloke next to me, like in his seat, literally like screeching in that moment. And I just tapped him on the shoulder and I was like, "It's all right, she's fine," and kind of pointed there.
Yeah.
And he nearly lost his
Man,
like
yeah.
seeing that girl there. And I've never been able to do that before in a movie. It's quite a
There
good
you go.
moment.
So
Eyegasm.
You were saying that you prefer the original?
Yeah, Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, I mean, this Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 remake, is famous for being quite bad.
Is that the one where Savini took over? Did he actually?
I think
run
it
amok
is that
on
one.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about
It's
Night of
more
the
of a
Living
special,
Dead is
isn't it?
there's no copyright on Night of the Living Dead,
Right.
so you can remake it. Anyone can remake it. Equally, whenever you're watching a horror film and they're watching a film in the movie, it's normally that because you don't have to pay.
Right.
So it's in so many horror films. But yeah, this is famously bad. But we all watched awful horror films when we were kids, and they scared the crap out of us.
Yeah.
Like it. When you're a kid, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's what happened to Zach from Lincoln. As a child, I idiotically watched Alien at the tender age of 9.
Oh.
Not only was it petrifying, but when my dad found out, he couldn't help but make it worse. That was my laptop. That's what his dad did. He went, "Bark." So like, just to really scare him. Bark. After telling me it was something he ate when I questioned the chest burst scene, I didn't nearly throw it.
Oh no.
He forgets to use full stops
Right,
after
okay.
that. So you need to go
Okay, you're right. It's that page fine. All right. So after telling me it was something he ate that led to the chest burster scene, I didn't eat for basically a week. He also removed the cover from the attic entrance to warn me that the alien had escaped.
That's really hard.
That's really
It's
hard.
outside of his room.
He
There's
kinda
no
deserves
cover
it,
on the
though.
attic of the alien's escape. And then he just ends quite poignantly, Zach. When you're 9, your imagination can ruin your life.
Well, yeah,
Zach.
that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Your dad's awesome.
Because I think I watched it when I was like maybe 12 or something like that, and I remember it. My dad saying, "Right, the bit's coming up, the bit's coming up," and it's like, "Oh my god!" And then it happened. It's like, "Oh, it's not quite as bad as you think."
Well, I watched Alien quite young, but I had Alien action figures as a kid.
They-
And
you're-
Predator.
you're a little bit dark,
But
aren't
they
you?
were like marketed towards kids. Like I used to
Yeah.
go to a toy shop in Blackburn every weekend, and they'd have Spider-Man figures, Batman figures, and then Alien figures. Like they were made by Mattel or whatever.
Alien didn't have quite the same impact on me because I didn't watch any horror films till I was quite old. I was too scared to watch them. And so my first introduction to that famous scene was Spaceballs. When it comes out of John
classic,
Chester
yeah.
to tap dance. So I knew what was coming, and equally, it's not scary when you've
It
seen
was
the alien
disappointing there
tap-
wasn't a tap dance.
Yeah, I want a song and dance number.
Where's the musical number? Yeah.
I had an experience pretty similar to what this guy's had. I think it was the age of my 12th birthday. I was taken to go see the Mel Gibson movie Signs.
Right.
Do you guys remember that?
Scary
And
movie.
it absolutely scared the pants off me.
Yeah.
For years after that, I was utterly terrified of those specific like grey aliens.
And glasses of water.
And glasses of water. Yeah, I couldn't drink. I had to drink orange squash for the rest of my life. But no, I absolutely scared the crap out of me, and I couldn't sleep just by myself in my room for ages after that.
I might have said it on
Who
the
slept
podcast.
with you?
Huh?
Who slept with you?
I think I went into my sister's room
Candyman.
and just slept
Mel
on the floor.
Gibson. I think that's, but for me, I might have said it on the podcast before. The stuff that scares me still the most are the stuff I saw when I was a kid that aren't necessarily horror films. Scene in Flash Gordon, a scene in Superman 3, and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the child catcher.
Catcher. Man, that was scary.
Terrifying, not a
Really
horror
scary,
film, but to this day, there's nothing as scary as that. I don't
Yeah.
think.
No, I agree.
He was a very famous ballet dancer, that actor, and that's part of what's scary. His movements
Yeah.
really unusual and
Yeah.
disturbing,
and also because it feels like it could be real.
yeah.
Whereas it's not so far fetched.
I'd go join in. He looks like Peter Mendelsohn, though, doesn't he?
Anyway,
Whatever.
right. So a piece of feedback for actually, so we've moved on from scary games. A piece of feedback on a podcast that I wasn't on, so maybe you can put some context to it. To clarify, the one-armed man was more of a 1.5-armed man. It doesn't just have the same ring to it. He used to rip our ticket stubs off by putting tickets under his armpit. Personally, I think he'd be a rubbish security guard, but equal opportunities for all. Hey.
I don't know
This
what
is really weird out
I
of
don't know the
context.
story
Jeez.
either, but I don't think we need any more explanation.
I think
That's
I'll
awesome
just
what
leave
it
it at that.
said.
It's fine, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Yeah,
I thought he was
Who
going
was on the podcast then?
just Stuart, I think.
I thought he was talking. Originally, I thought he was talking about The Fugitive,
Yeah, the one. Yeah,
but no, he was
No,
talking
he's talking about a cinema man who pulls your ticket stubs using his
It's a-
armpit.
I would be
Using
weirded out by
stubs.
that. That's really weird.
Well,
and then your ticket would be quite smelly, wouldn't it?
Maybe he's got very good hygiene.
Thanks,
Maybe
Craig.
he
Though
does.
that's one of my favourite ever emails. I've got an email from John Langan from the Land of Frogs.
I was saying, where is that? And Krupa said France, which I thought was a little bit.
Racist.
but where else is it then?
I don't know.
So John says, I was just thinking about all the VR stuff going on, and I don't understand why everyone is only talking about first-person gaming experiences. Surely the VR experience could be used for third-person and 3D platformers too. So you would in fact float above the environment, kind of like a camera, and therefore you could look in all directions to see new spaces not normally viewed on a traditional screen. Think of Mario Galaxy, where you can see other worlds around you, or Assassin's Creed, where you can be more strategic in Navy battles due to better peripheral vision. Just a thought.
I think it could be used quite effectively in a God sim or real-time strategy like Civ.
Yeah.
A God game.
Yeah.
If you're looking down through the clouds and you can move the clouds aside and do stuff like that, that would be effective. I think with the platform is tricky though, because you need to be looking at that character, and if you look left, the character's going to stay where he is or she is. I think that could be more disorientating.
And also, how do you move? Because obviously the camera, you can change the direction that the camera looks in, but you don't move the camera, as it were.
I think that's a
fixed point, which wouldn't be.
I wonder if that ties
platform.
into the problem that they sometimes have with Oculus, is that you can create motion sickness quite easily.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a fixed perspective or something to orientate yourself, it's very easy to make people feel very queasy with it.
Yeah.
Like if the camera starts spinning around and you're like, it can make you feel pretty ill.
Yeah. But I don't know, SimCity, for example, where you kind of like zooming around the landscape and stuff like that. I think that would work.
And Candy Crush.
And Candy Crush. Boom Beach. It's all about Boom Beach.
You are obsessed with Boom Beach.
I am obsessed with Boom Beach.
What is that?
It's a new free-to-play game on iOS No, it's good.
Yeah, I'm worried now.
It's by the same people who make Clash of Clans.
Right.
But it's kind of like Clash of Clans crossed with Advance Wars. And it is good.
Should I play it?
Well, I don't know. Have you played Clash of Clans?
No.
I think, look, it's free. Try it.
Yeah, but
it's free to play, though.
That's what drug dealers say.
We've bought some diamonds though.
I've spent $2.99 on it, which I would spend on a game anyway.
I've spent £6 now.
Is that
Yeah. I've
wow,
got 600 diamonds.
You say that I'm obsessed, and wow,
Is that the one?
you junkie?
You should see my beach.
Is Clash of Clans the game that some of our colleagues are spending loads of money on?
All I've seen
they're
of Clash of
ridiculous.
Clans-
They're spending proper money on it.
They're in sales though. They've got the money.
Yeah.
All I've seen of it is just adverts of it on just websites I go on, and they really annoy me. It's just pictures of a guy
I
going,
don't really
"Wah."
like the look of the characters and stuff. I think
I really can't really abide those cartoon characters you get
What?
in iOS games.
But yeah, you spent £6 on it.
yeah, because I like the game. I
What
find
level
that
are you?
satisfying. Oh, I'm only like 10.
Well, you just bought your way to success.
No, I haven't.
You
no. What are you on about? What are you on about? I just upgraded my gold storage.
So bitter, Alex.
it's one of those games
I'm
where you
doing
have
it the
to.
real way. I'm too tight to spend any money. It just takes days to level anything up.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's really good.
It's one of those games where you have to wait to do stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It seems to me like a bit of a rip-off of Tribal Wars, if you guys have ever heard of that.
But I think, to be honest, there are so many games that do the same thing. I was on it was on a BAFTA panel actually a couple of years ago. I can't remember what game it was. There's a Lego game, not a Lego game, sorry, a Hobbit game that's exactly the same process. But it's quite rewarding. It's the balance of like upgrading and fighting and stuff like that with waiting works quite well. So I just, for example, before I leave the house in the morning, I set something to upgrade so it's doing it throughout my train journey. And if there's a big upgrade coming, I wait till the end of the night so it does it overnight. So I think it's good. You should try it out, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will.
Is that for feedback? No, I think we've got one more piece.
Oh, it's me, sorry.
Oh, no, two more pieces.
Yeah, this is from Elliot Rogers. He said, "Hello, IGN team. I like your podcast. I was recently in a quiet Soho pub having some lunch when I noticed two stately gentlemen in the room, Alex Simmons and Daniel Krupa, drinking on a weekday. How absurd."
Stately.
Well, can I just say, I wasn't drinking. I was drinking, but it was a lemonade.
I was on a bottle of beer.
Yeah.
And I wasn't invited, so...
Oh, dear.
Cheers.
It's awkward. All right. As I was at the bar and about to offer them a lunchtime drink, they swiftly departed the vicinity.
Well, we
they
didn't-
kind of
hey.
looked over and went, "It's that guy we've never met before. Quick."
Well, we didn't actually know that he was there because, like Krupa, you got a tweet about. Well, you saw it about 15 minutes
slept,
later.
yeah.
But the reason we left is because we were going for a burger, an honest burger, and our table was ready.
I wasn't invited for that either,
you weren't.
so just...
It was a nice burger. It was a special. It was a ribman special. It had like pulled pork and
Rib
ribs
meat
on
on it.
top. It was really
wow.
good.
Sounds great.
It says, "This got me thinking. Have you ever, now or in your youth, seen someone important or famous that you wanted to speak to but regrettably missed your chance?" I can answer this really well. I've been here all week, and up until today, I haven't really been able to meet any of you. My experience of meeting you guys has been awkward conversations as you come and say hi in a room I'm
To be
playing.
honest, that's the conversations with us full stops.
Like, I met
Really
you,
awkward.
Dan. You came in
Yeah.
to say hi on Tuesday, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten the number of times I said, "I recognise you from the podcast." Just like awkwardly going, "Oh, hi, yeah, I recognise you from the podcast."
That's good that we film it now.
As in, you've watched it, or... The
I've
Voice?
watched and listened to it for years.
Because I'm wondering if anyone watches these videos of us.
Well,
I watched it on
I
Friday.
do about 10 views on YouTube.
Yeah,
10 views. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, I a long time ago when Blur were in their heyday, Graham Coxon was in the same pub as me, and I'm a big Blur fan, and I was just too embarrassed to go up to talk to him. So the only piece of paper I had on me was a NatWest bank slip, and I got my girlfriend at the time to go over and get it signed, and then I lost it later that night because I was pissed. And then he was walking to the toilet when I was walking back, and I was like, "Oh, Graham, I think you're really, really good," and then walked off. That's the end of it.
Wow, that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anybody else, Chris?
I don't.
I've got loads.
Have you?
But one that I wasn't able to speak to, was Sophie from I'm Alan Partridge. You know, the quite pretty girl at the front desk of the travel tavern who keeps giggling.
Yeah.
Who was in Smack the Pony.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one where
Sally.
Sally Phillips. I was trying to summon the courage and I didn't quite manage it. So I never spoke to her.
She doesn't really sort of strike me as the person you'd be going, "Oh, I can't talk to her, too starstruck."
I know, but it's Alan Partridge. So last week at the Empire Awards, I did manage to speak to Lynn and Michael from Alan Partridge.
Right.
So I kind of remedied it a bit.
What did you say?
I talked to them for ages.
You didn't quote Alan Partridge at them, did you?
Bex, our colleague from Ask Men, got Michael because he's quite a Simon Grenfell. He's quite a posh Southern guy, even though he plays the Geordie.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Bex, after a few drinks, was basically get him to do Geordie quotes, like say this. But he was loving it. He seemed to be enjoying himself. One that you'll like that I did summon up the courage to talk to was I was at the opening night of some club that a friend invited me to, and then they didn't show up, so I was on my own. I clocked another bloke who was on his own when I was on my way to the toilet, and I said to him as I was going to the loo, "Excuse me, are you Freddie Ljungberg?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Are you?" And I kind of pulled his head down, and it was when he had the red stripe down there.
Pulled his head down?
Yeah, I was like,
What?
"Oh yeah, you are." And I said, "Look, I'm on my own. Are you on your own?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "I'm going to the toilet now, but when I come back, can I talk to you?" And he said yes. It was very strange.
And he was still waiting for you?
Yeah, he waited for me.
God,
and then we
weird.
had a good chat. It was when he was in his pomp, and I was trying to convince him to sign for Crystal Palace.
Oh, yeah, right.
And he was having none of it.
Funny that.
He was like, "Why would I do that?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I had that same conversation with Steven Gerrard once, and he said, "Why would I do that?"
I used to
And
love
Sally
Freddie
Phillips.
Ljungberg.
He's a good
One of
player.
my favourite Arsenal players.
Great player.
Great player.
That's when you had good players.
Yes.
The Invincibles. The Invincibles.
Yep.
Good question, though.
Yeah, very
Creeper?
good.
Dan?
I don't know.
I've spoken to all of my
I'm
heroes.
just quite shy. I wouldn't approach anyone.
Well, so in that case, you must have seen someone and
No,
really
I
didn't
don't.
approach.
No, I've seen people I wouldn't want to approach. like Jude Law. I don't want to go speak to Jude Law.
I met him at urinal.
You meet a lot of people at urinals.
You do spend a lot of your time in toilets, though.
In posh
You really
places,
do,
yeah. It's only natural.
Jennifer Tilly was a good one. Have you ever seen my picture of me with Jennifer Tilly when I went up to her?
Who's Jennifer Tilly?
She's an actress. She's in, what is she in? Bride of Chucky?
Right.
Liar, liar.
Liar.
Don't know her, but
She's
okay.
like.
I'll send you the picture, and if you want to put it in the podcast story, it's very funny.
It's a good visual gag, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
All right, okay.
Anyway,
Last piece of feedback.
This is Dean. Hi, Dean. He's a long-time IGN fan, but being in the US, he's only just discovered the UK podcast, and he really likes it.
Oh,
from listening to the last 12 episodes or so, I have a two-part question. He realised we might have answered this in the past, but he's a new listener. Number one, what is the video game you would most want to be turned into a movie that hasn't already been done so? Do you want to answer that first?
Ask the other question first.
And the second one is, what is the worst video game movie to date?
Well, that's easy. It's got to be Mario. Or maybe Street Fighter.
The worst? Mario's pretty...
I feel like we did that as a feature recently.
Dire.
Let me just check, and I think we might have...
We are
put
ranking...
Alone in the Dark.
I've never seen it. Christian Slater.
Christian
isn't it?
Slater, yeah, I think we made that number one.
Oh, I've not seen that either.
I've not seen
so, what would we like to be turned into a movie?
Well, I'd love to see a good Mario movie.
Would it work as a movie though?
Well, but like an animated,
animated.
Pixar style thing.
Yeah.
Be great.
Yeah, or a Lego movie style thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Good character.
Zelda.
We talked about this once on the
Zelda,
podcast.
Zelda,
it must be like 100 episodes ago now. We did this thing where we all came up with movie pictures or treatments
Oh, yeah.
for
Yes.
video game movies or movies we'd like to be made. And you did a trick. We all had like 30 seconds
Oh
to
my
pitch
gosh.
it.
I won.
Yeah.
I won.
And-
Mine was the best.
What was your film?
Bomberman.
Bomberman, the movie.
I wrote
with
a
Tom
full
Hardy.
treatment from
With Tom Hardy.
Tom
starring-
Hardy. Tom Hardy was Bomberman.
That's right, because wasn't
Terrorist
mine
thriller.
Del Toro directed Zelda?
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah,
was.
it was
Yeah,
not as good as mine.
yeah
I
but
wish
we went out for lunch at Honest Burger yesterday.
someone should do a fake Zelda movie trailer.
Someone should do that.
We might have done.
Really well, amazing.
Wow.
Seamless.
Put that in the podcast story as well. Just put it all in.
But that was a great. Have you seen the April Fool's trailer we did for Zelda? Oh God, about 6 years ago.
God, I went on your like history of it. I think I have done, but it was a while ago. I don't.
It's
quite
really
remember.
good. I'm a big Zelda fan, and I'd love to
And
see
it was
Zelda
really
movie.
well done. I mean, we didn't do it, so we're not blowing our own trumpet. But for at least 3 years after that, we would still, every week, get emails asking when the movie's coming out. People still thought it was real, which is like...
Yeah.
It's a weird thing with... There's loads of games that I'd like to see as movies, but do I actually want it to happen? Probably not. Like, out of curiosity value, like, I'd like to see Dark Souls adapted as a big
Oh, that
dark
would be
fantasy epic. But at the
brilliant.
same time, what's great about Dark Souls is all the mythology is quite unconnected.
I think you could
So why
still
would you
make a
wanna
movie
put-
that was
Yeah.
a bit vague, though.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully,
But-
the next couple of years, hopefully
I
we'll
think
get
they're going to crack it. I think
World of Warcraft movie and an Assassin's Creed movie. Those are the
Splinter
two.
Cell
That
with
I
Tom
really
Hardy.
hope Splinter Cell goes well.
Yeah.
And there's a PS to this, which is quite interesting, I thought. When my wife and I visited London this past summer, we discovered Cafe Nero. And we're both shocked how good it was. Now, as I catch up on the podcast and hear your guys' references to London now and again, I can't help but wonder if Londoners think it is as good as I do. Out of curiosity, what do you guys think of Cafe Nero? That's a weird... I really like that question.
Yeah.
It's also interesting because earlier this week on BBC Two, there was an hour-long documentary about the rise of coffee culture in the UK. And Cafe Nero was a big part of it. It is the third biggest coffee chain in the UK.
Is that right?
Number one is Costa.
Yeah.
Number two is Starbucks. Number three is Cafe Nero. And Cafe Nero skews towards an older male demographic. It seems like
I actually
prepared-
went to
Have you
it this
been, Alex?
morning.
So
I don't think it's not specific to London place. It's in Bristol.
Yeah, and it's a nationwide chain. And the thing that they really play up is obviously the Italian
Right.
vibe.
So
And
I
it's
go
like-
to
See.
Cafe Nero quite a lot. But that's only because it's next door to a toy shop in my hometown, and my daughter often gets too excited.
She
for
loves
toy shop.
coffee and toys.
So I promise you, she's curled a few off in Cafe Nero.
What?
I don't think that really answers his question.
I'm just saying,
That's what she thinks of it.
I haven't tasted the coffee, but I've used their
Yeah,
toilets.
Cafe Nero is like very popular over here.
Yeah.
I would say
do
it's
you two
definitely
go
sort of
to
third
Cafe
tier.
Nero without
Yeah,
inviting
all
me?
the time. Yeah.
It's awkward, isn't it?
But yeah, like it was interesting in the kind of 60s, 70s, 60s and 70s. London was full of like tea shops, and that was the thing. You would get like a cup of tea on the way to work if you were going to get anything. And then in the 80s, about in the 70s, Italian immigrants started opening coffee shops in Soho.
Right.
Sounds like I'm really prepared for this.
Yeah, because I remember like Cafe Italia
Like, it was
on
still-
whatever.
still
Bar
there.
Italia.
Is it still there?
It's still
Bar
there.
Italia.
That's
It's
it.
open all night. That's
Yeah.
like one of the most popular spots.
Yeah, so you
in-
should definitely
Didn't
go to there,
Pop did a
Dean.
song about it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I think Bex has mentioned that. 'Cause we
Yeah,
went-
Jarvis did a song called Bar Italia about that bar.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you should go there, Dean. And then Britain became obsessed with instant coffee. In the 80s, Britain was the leading consumer of frozen coffee in the
Right.
world. What's it called? It's not called frozen coffee. Dry
Well, it's just called instant. isn't
instant
it?
coffee
Yeah.
in the world. And now we're actually getting into coffee in a big way.
I still find it a faff at home. Like I don't
Proper
really drink
coffee, yeah.
I don't drink coffee at home. I drink tea, but it's just like instant granules. Is that?
Makes a mess, doesn't it?
But at the same time, I can. We used to have a coffee
what I'm
machine.
talking
I just stick with tea, to be honest.
I used to have a coffee machine at home, like a Gaggy or whatever they're called, and just the whole faff of like beans, etc. God, what a pain
I
in the
like it
arse.
with your impression.
There's actually showed a clip from a Not the 9 o'clock news sketch the other day where it's obviously the 80s and this woman comes in and goes, "Oh, can I have a cappuccino?" And Griff Rhys Jones,
yeah,
he's
out the
pretending,
back,
he's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
he's
Yeah.
actually just making instant
Yeah.
and putting like fairy liquid in it.
Frothing the
Yeah,
frosted
blowing
top.
it up with a straw.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is the
Oh
coffee
yeah, sorry,
podcast.
before we move on the subject of games turned into movies, I'd really like to see Metroid get turned into a movie.
That's
I think
cool.
it
Yeah.
really
That'd be a good one.
And another one which is a little bit of a
Castlevania.
cheat because technically it's already turned into a movie is a game I've been playing too much recently called Persona.
Right.
It's like a series.
Yeah.
And I think that it's already been turned into an animation in Japan, and there's a movie of the third one in Japan. But I think it could work really well as a live action movie. But
There you
I
go.
think it might hurt the fan base a little bit.
Right.
As an addition to the mailbag, we haven't talked about it, but I saw 2 emails this week about a horror film that 2 of our readers love, A Tale of Two Sisters, Korean movie. And they're right, it's one of the scariest movies you'll ever see. And so sorry I didn't name check the people that wrote in about it.
Okay.
But if you really want to be terrified,
This weekend.
A Tale of Two Sisters.
And
Horrendous.
I was interested by the guy who mentioned he was really scared by Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Because a few years back, I fancied myself as a bit of a film buff. So I was like, I'm going to watch loads of classic movies. And I watched Night of the Living Dead, and I didn't even get through 10 minutes of it. I wasn't scared. I was just bored. It was the
It's
original
quite slow,
George A.
the original.
Romero.
The original's quite slow. I don't know. There's one scene in it that I think still
With the
stands
daughter.
It still stands the test of time. But I think that is. I don't know if that is a scary movie. I think that's very much horror as metaphor kind of cinema.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's got one of the great endings in the history of film, which we won't talk about here. It's very. It was ahead of its time. It's before horror films really existed as a genre.
Yeah. It's a bit of a
I'd give
weird
it another
thing
go.
with zombies. Yeah.
I'd give it another go.
I've always found with zombie culture, I love zombie games like Call of Duty Zombies. I play non-stop, incessantly, but I haven't really liked any zombie movies. I always find them quite dull and slow.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what it is. I think it's just when you're the person who's trying to defend yourself, it's quite exciting in the game. But in the movie, when it's not you, it's just zombies are coming.
I had similar thing. Like when I first watched Dawn of the Dead, I found it very long and slow.
Yep.
But
There you go.
On that bombshell.
On that bombshell. So let's talk about the games and movies that are out this week. And there's actually quite a few decent games.
it's happening, isn't
For
it?
once.
Stuff is actually coming out.
Yeah. So up first, Lego The Hobbit, which you played with Bard.
I played it with Luke Evans.
Yeah.
And that video is live on site, went up this week. Lego The Hobbit, they introduced some new mechanics. There's new building mechanics, a bit more interactive, but it is a Lego game, so it is a light-hearted retelling of the movie.
Yep.
It's only the first two movies because the last one isn't out, so it's kind of a game without an ending, which is kind of
That's a bit
sucks
weird,
a
isn't
bit.
it? Yeah.
I don't think they've confirmed it. The rumor is it will be added as DLC later in the year, which
Okay.
makes sense.
Rather than a separate product. that would make
Yeah,
sense.
but yeah, I think the difficulty with The Hobbit over something like Marvel Lego, which is great, is all the characters are quite samey.
Yeah.
There's no great variety. There's no, I don't know.
See, I find that with the Lego games, just full stop.
I've always had a bit of a meh attitude towards the Lego games. Like I played Lego Star Wars when it first came out, and that was like the big one. I thought, yeah, this is really good fun. And then as it kind of got going, it was pretty much the same thing, but with different packaging.
Yeah,
It's quite
I
cookie
do.
cutter.
I don't know.
You love Marvel, didn't you?
I do love Marvel Lego. It's probably the next gen game I've put most time in it. There's something about it I find quite relaxing playing it. It's like you can disengage your brain and just,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like light reading or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to concentrate too much.
It was
but
really
if you
good,
want to
yeah.
play a game.
I got that. Sorry, I got that on PS4 at Christmas, and it's really good. I really enjoyed it just because it's superheroes. You can knock around,
Yeah.
and it's also very casual. You really don't need to be a hardcore gamer to play it.
Yeah.
So I could get my family to join in and just play with
Yeah,
me,
I
and
play
they're not
with my
really
nephew
gamers.
a lot as well.
I've never played a Lego game. If I was going to start, which one?
I go Marvel Lego.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I think that also because it appealed to you, like because of the film references.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
It's the most
It's really
complete
funny as
experience
well, and you can
It's
go
really
anywhere
funny, yeah.
in Marvel's New York City. You can go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
All the characters feel very different. You can transform from little Mark Ruffalo into the Hulk.
You showed me
Yeah.
that,
Which is great.
Yeah, which was awesome.
I think
Okay.
my favourite feature of that game is when you're playing as Mr. Fantastic, and for no reason you can transform into a teapot at
Yeah,
will
and just walk around.
Just hop about as a teapot. There's no
I don't
reason.
know,
Living
it's,
the
weird,
dream.
it's a bonkers game.
I want to know how they picked teapot though. Did they
don't
have
know,
some
there
kind
must
of
be some
meeting
weird
where like,
reference.
what's he going to turn into?
He turns into some weird things in that game as well.
Really?
He turns into
It's
like
crazy stuff.
working jackhammers and things. That's not how stretching works.
Speaking of weird transformations, Connect Sports Rivals.
What pro?
You did a video where you were transformed into your
Champion.
more athletic self.
What are you talking about? My champion.
Where you were
Connect
normal
Sports
height.
Rivals. It feels weird. Like we gave it a 7 point something on site, which is good. A lot of the reviews for Connect Sports Rivals are a bit weird because they're like, "Oh, Connect works most of the time."
Yeah.
Imagine saying that about any
I
other
know,
game.
yeah.
Like if you put a review up
Controls.
for Metal Gear, controls work most of the time. You're
Yeah.
like, what? They should work all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 6 games. I won't list them all here. We did a feature on site ranking them all. Some are really good. Some are really fun. But
Ultimately, is it the game to showcase Connect?
no, because
No, exactly.
Are there any games to showcase Connect though?
Well, you
Peter
would, you, would,
Molyneux doesn't
you, would,
think so.
you would have thought a game that's got Connect in the title should be the game to
You'd hope
showcase
so.
Connect, but it doesn't.
It always seems a bit of a gimmick to me.
Yeah.
I was briefly interested in the Ghost Recon Future Soldier thing where you could go all Minority Report and move,
Yeah, but
move
still-
your guns around, but that's still just a gimmick.
Yeah, it's pointless.
What else, Hal?
FTL. Now, that's just out on iPad, and I didn't play it on PC, and I've played it briefly on iPad, but I chose to skip the tutorial, which was a big mistake.
And everyone died.
So everyone died within about 3 minutes. I switched it off and played Boom Beach, which is true.
Sorry to be stupid. What's FTL?
So it's fast. It's called Faster Than Light. So it's
Okay.
a Faster Than Light drive, and it's a top-down real-time strategy game where you are in charge of a little spaceship traveling through. a dangerous sector of space delivering very important information.
It's a roguelike, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's different every time you play it. It's randomly generated.
Yeah.
And you get attacked, and you only have a limited amount of crew members and power. So sometimes you might need to sacrifice oxygen in one room, kill a player, kill one of your crew members in order to save the entire ship.
Yeah.
So it's like Kobayashi Maru kind of situations. But yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, I will play it more once I've finished with Boom Beach. Also out on iOS, Monument Valley. Have you played that?
Yeah, finished it. I played it the weekend. It's 2 hours, and it's like, MC Emmett. MC. MC Hammer. MC Escher.
I wish it was MC Hammer, that'd be amazing.
MC Escher, the Dutch artist, who a lot of his art centres around impossible shapes.
Yeah.
It's a puzzle game based around impossible shapes. So you've got to guide a princess from one side of the screen to the other, and it might look impossible, but then you can rotate a platform, and you can create a shape that wouldn't exist in 3 dimensions, but does in 2D.
So wasn't there a PSP game a bit like that? I'm trying to remember what it was called.
I don't know.
I'm sure there was a PSP game like
there
that.
are also, like, if you played Fez as well, there's kind of aspects of that in there as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's really lovely.
Yeah. How much?
I think it's about £3.
For 2 hours.
Yeah.
And a bit of IGN trivia. We used to work with someone who was covering his body in Escher tattoos.
Did not
Who
know
was that?
Danny Ranker.
Was he?
Yeah. If he showed you his arms and like he was slowly but surely covering himself in Escher.
He had an
imagery.
impossible body.
Yeah.
He also had a really weird tattoo of a gremlin on his chest, though, right?
I found that on the company away day when we got into the pool. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Trials Frontier is out now. This is the free-to-play version on iOS, and I started playing it briefly yesterday, and I don't know, it's not all that. The story is to make it free-to-play, they've shoehorned in a story where you've got to go and do these tasks, and obviously your bike's not powerful enough, so you've either got to do a bit of a grind to get the power-ups to do the stuff, or you spend the money. And that's not what Trials is about to me. Trials is like instant fun, and also the touch controls don't offer the same level of precision.
So we were talking about Trials all about finding biting point.
Yeah.
And you can't really do that on a touch screen.
Yeah, which is a shame. But for me, the game of the week is Titanfall on Xbox 360, which I never thought I would ever say, because I kind of assumed that they put 6 weeks between the Xbox One version and the 360 version, because the 360 version wouldn't be very good. But actually, it's good. The difference between the two isn't that much.
They spent ages just not telling anyone anything about it.
Yeah, it's like, in retrospect, like it looked like 2 ways. One, it looked really, really shoddy.
Yeah.
Or what's turned out to be the case, it looks great, and therefore you don't want people not to buy it on Xbox One because the 360 version looks just as good.
Yeah.
And there'll be more people playing it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you want to get involved online.
Yeah, like if you haven't made the jump so far to Xbox One, I'd definitely go and pick up Titanfall, because it looks great and it's got everything that the Xbox One version has. Obviously, the resolution's not quite so good. There's a bit of screen tearing, but it's negligible. What about movies, Chris?
What about movies, Alex?
Well, which ones are out?
Daniel, do you want to kick off? Because you've seen our first movie up.
The Quiet Ones. I think I've talked about it on the podcast before. It's a new Hammer movie, and the rationale behind it is quite cool. The philosophy of the movie is, imagine if Hammer hadn't stopped making movies when they did, and they were still producing movies alongside the great American horror movies of the 70s, so The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, The Omen, stuff like that. And that's what The Quiet Ones is kind of supposed to be, the movie that they would have made in the 70s.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't heard that.
So it's about kind of psychical research in the early 20th century, and a girl who is possessed. It's quite short. It's about 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's not brilliant. Like, there are a couple of effective scenes, but it gets a little bit lost in how it's using found footage.
Right.
Like, it wants to be a found footage film, so there's a camera around a lot. Like, one of the first things it does, the professor at the beginning of the movie, is recruit a cameraman. But then there's loads of stuff that looks like it's shot, but it's like, who is shooting this? So it gets kind of a bit lost in its own logic, why, what's being filmed, what isn't. But there are some effective scares, but it does look a little bit low, like production value. It's okay.
It's Jared Harris, isn't it?
It is Jared Harris, who is
pretty good.
Price in Mad Men.
Mm-hmm. He's in Fringe as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the Sherlock Holmes movie.
Sherlock
I
Holmes,
really liked
Moriarty,
him.
Yeah,
I
he's a good actor.
He's definitely, I think, one of the best things about it. Yeah.
Richard Harris's son. Fact fans.
There you go.
I see. I
Yeah,
knew that.
Richard Harris.
It kind of makes sense now you say it. Okay.
I'm quite sad to hear that you didn't like it, because I remember when they first... I really liked the Woman in Black when that came out. And I was really excited for it when I first heard about the Quiet Ones. But that was back when it was starting production, so I kind of forgot about it. And then they started
I
releasing
think you can cut a good trailer from it. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's just
I feel like they sneaked it out as well this week.
Yeah.
Like,
That
it
hasn't
wasn't
been
really
much
on our
promotion.
radar,
Yeah,
was it?
no.
So they've not made much of a fanfare. So
yeah.
It's a
maybe
shame,
one
I was
to
quite
watch.
excited.
Maybe one to watch at home
Yeah.
rather than in the cinema. Whereas that other film you should watch in the cinema, and it's The Raid 2.
Oh, yes.
So who here's seen The Raid?
I have.
You haven't seen The Raid? Groups.
No.
It's so good.
Never seen it.
It's
Very,
so
very
good.
good.
I might watch on Netflix.
So yeah,
this
one of
week.
the greatest action films of all time, but very simple plot. Very, it's all set in one building, almost plays out in real time.
Yeah.
This is very different. It kicks off the moment after the original movie ends, but it's a totally different beast. It's not in real time. It's long. It's 2.5 hours. It's too long, actually, in my opinion. But it's more an undercover cop movie than what that one was, which was just a straightforward action movie. It has the same plot as Dredd, pretty much, the original did.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it's much more like Infernal Affairs or the remakes, The Departed. It's a bit more like that, where our hero goes undercover. It's good. It's too long and there's too many characters and too many plot strands. So it's what was great about the first one was that simplicity. This one, it's cool that they've tried something different, but there's just too much going on.
That's a
You could easily shave half an hour out and 2 or 3 characters. If you look at the first poster they released, it's probably 12, 13 characters all sitting around, which I didn't think much of at the time. I just thought, oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah, I
but
remember
having
the
watched the
poster now,
film, it's like, too much. It's too
You've
much.
got to go through them all.
Yeah. But nevertheless, there are 3 or 4 action sequences which are as good as anything you'll ever see. There's a baseball bat boy and hammer girl, almost like superheroes. They show up, these 2 characters, and the fight they have with Eco is amazing.
Yeah.
So there is part 3 coming.
There is, yeah. So Rich went and interviewed Gareth Evans, the director, and Eco, the star, and talked with them. I think we'll probably put the video up next week. But to make it that much more complicated, Gareth said part 3 will kick off half an hour before part 2 ends.
So when part 2 should have finished then?
Probably. Yeah, exactly. But I guess there's a lot going on in part 2, and I guess one of those plot strands he'll take in a different direction.
What's next for that director, do you think? Because obviously, there's so much buzz around that action. I can't imagine, other studios looking on and not going, quite like to say we've got that guy.
Well, it's a no-brainer that he's going to do a big Hollywood movie. And I think Rich, I don't know if we'll use this, we'll probably put it on the site next week as well. Rich asked him if he'd do a superhero film. And he said his problem with superhero movies is that they're not R-rated and that you'd have to cut away at the stuff that he likes shooting.
It would fundamentally take the edges off what he does that makes his stuff different.
Yep.
But that said, I mean, probably maybe now's a good time for an R-rated horror film, a superhero movie, low-budget one.
Matrix was a 15, wasn't it?
Ooh, I can't remember.
I think it was.
Yeah.
That was,
But a low budget, like the guys that are trying to make Deadpool has said they've got a low budget script that's R-rated that could be made.
I always
easily.
think that's what they should have done with Wolverine. Make it fine, have him as PG-13 in the X-Men movies, but when he spins out,
Well, who knows? I might have spoken to Hugh Jackman recently, and he might have said that he wants to see like a hardcore Deadpool Wolverine R-rated movie. He might have said that. I don't know because I'm embargoed, but
I was like, well, I
You
thought
just
of,
have to wait.
that video might go on the site on May 16th.
There you go.
so what I thought the Raid and what made it so good, it was kind of like the Arkham Asylum of action movies, in that it was really focused. It took real time. It's focused on one specific thing, and that made it really good. It's a shame to see that it's kind of branched out a bit.
But they had to do something different.
I guess so, yeah.
It was just too long.
Maybe it's the Arkham City.
in the third one, he's just going to get a car.
Yeah, exactly.
The Icomobile.
So if you're going to pick one film to watch this week, it would be The Raid.
Indeed.
I'm probably going to go Titanfall in terms of games. But Creeper, would you recommend Monument Valley over that?
If you play Titanfall, yeah.
Okay, if not,
It's a unique experience.
go for Titanfall. That's it for this week's podcast. Thank you, Seb, for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a fantastic week.
And thank you for playing Elder Scrolls for 40 hours.
It was great. Is that how much it's been now?
Well,
it feels like 2.
And I hope you don't get mugged.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to
so.
carry your PC home
We'll see
in
how
a
it goes.
carrier
It'll
bag.
Yeah,
be an eventful evening.
Take it home before this podcast goes live.
Yes.
Yeah.
People hanging out at Victoria Coach Station. Not that I know that's where you're going from.
Alex.
Yeah, thank you for listening to this week's podcast, and we'll be back same time next week. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.